You notice something. Conservatives, they love talking about liberal-run cities, liberal-run states, but they never tell you about conservative-run states. They never say we have the best governance model ever. No, they never do. I'm going to tell you why conservatism is such a con job, and has been for America for a long period of time. You gotta look no further than the state of Tennessee. It's totally conservative run. They have an overwhelming majority in the state house and state senate. The governor is Republican. All the important elected office holders are Republicans in the state of Tennessee. It's a conservative wet dream. And yet, you look at all the shit that's happening in Tennessee. Take, for instance, homelessness. People who are unhoused. They just decided, the state house and state senate decided to send a bill to the desk of the governor, who's likely to sign it, criminalizing being unhoused and homeless. You heard it. If you're found camping on public lands, in your car, your RV, your trailer, it's no longer a misdemeanor. It's a felony now. Punishable by 6 years in prison, in jail. That's Tennessee's solution. They're gonna house you, but just, well, in their Department of Correctional Facilities. You as a resident of Tennessee are still gonna have to pay. A lot of people get that confused. You still have to pay to feed the inmate. There's other expenses like medical. They have to provide that, the state. So they found the most ineffective, inhumane way to house people in America who are suffering from being unhoused in America. They're going to throw you in prison if you stay. A lot of people won't stay. They'll just go to another state. And that's what happens. That doesn't get reported. They tell you, look at all the homeless individuals in California, in Washington State, in Oregon, in Colorado. But what they don't tell you is they come from the South. They come from states like Tennessee. And now there's going to be a mass exodus. They come where they can get resources, where they won't be criminalized and demonized for being homeless, unhoused. Now the bill's author, they went on to state that nobody has all the answers to solve homelessness. The bill won't solve homelessness. The critics of the bill, they don't have the answers either. Now this is complete bullshit. This is what conservatives do. When they make legislation targeting a group, saying that you're the enemy of America because you're unhoused. Then in order to absolve themselves of this debauchery, they say nobody really has any good ideas how to solve the issue. No, there are plenty of good ideas. You just don't want to do them. They could demolish all the abandoned buildings and build tiny houses, tiny village communities. If you survey most unhoused people, people who reside in shelters, in tent cities, they all will tell you they want to be in a tiny house village. Housing First was a model that was started in Salt Lake City, Utah. The last time I looked, that was a conservative state. It's going to be a felony now if you're caught camping on public lands in the state of Tennessee. It was already against the law to do it on state-owned land. But now the public land, you're telling me an empty public parking lot, you can't sleep in your car in the state of Tennessee without possibly getting 6 years in prison and a felony. Now this started because people started protesting after George Floyd, the lynching in Tennessee. They were protesting about George Floyd, but they were also protesting about the conditions that people like George Floyd were going through in America. They don't tell you that George Floyd was impoverished in this country. Think about it. You called the police over a potential fake $20 bill at a convenience store. So rather than fix the problem in a conservative bastion of America, they've decided to criminalize you. You're the enemy if you're unhoused. Oh yeah, they'll say that you're a drug addict. You're an alcoholic. They'll say all kinds of mean-spirited things about you to justify why they're targeting and punishing you. Somehow, all unhoused people fit into one category. Now me, knowing that this is not the case, because I've worked with the unhoused, I know there are thousands upon thousands of women who become unhoused every day, fleeing from domestic violence of their abusers. Maybe their abuser was the sole breadwinner in their household. And now they have to get up in the middle of the night, pack their suitcase, get the kids in the car, and take off. Now they stay at a women's shelter. We know that this happens in this country. There are millions of senior citizens who are being priced out of apartments because they're on fixed income. Conservatives in Tennessee will tell you, if you're a senior citizen and you can't afford your rent and you become unhoused, you didn't budget well. We've actually done budgeting for senior citizens. I mean, really, done budgeting. Like a spreadsheet budgeting. And they don't hardly have very many expenses. Their primary one is rent and food. And then their phone. It's nothing fancy. But if rent has gone up over 17% on average in this country, year over year, 31% alone in Tampa, Florida, you're not going to keep up with that on fixed income. So you're going to become unhoused. They already know this. It's happening in mass in this country. The conservative solution in Tennessee is to put you in prison for 6 years and give you a felony. So people are going to flee Tennessee and come where they can be treated humane, where they can be seen as a human being. Because in Tennessee, they see you as a criminal, as something worthless. Love thy neighbor. Apparently not if thy neighbor happens to be in a car, an RV, or a trailer. You try to do the van life in Tennessee, they'll put you in the slammer for sure. This is a conservative nightmare. But they never talk about this. They don't want you to know their governance is a complete and utter nightmare. If you're asking for change on the street, they're going to make it a misdemeanor and give you a fine. Now think about this. If you're asking for change, you already are saying you don't have any money. But the police in Tennessee are going to roll by and give you a fine, a ticket. And if you don't pay the ticket, you know what's going to happen. They're going to put you in jail. The same is true if you're camping under a viaduct in a tent. They're going to fine you. You're not going to be able to pay the fine. And so they're going to incarcerate you. That's how they've chosen to do housing first, under conservatism in Tennessee. It's not housing first, it's prison and jail first. What an atrocity. What an utter nightmare. The citizens in Tennessee, all of you, should be outraged. I think some study comes out every year where they say 40% of Americans don't have $1,000 saved up. You see the inflation. You see the prices of everything going up. And by everything, I mean everything. People are becoming unhoused by the thousands every day in this country. Tennessee's solution, the conservative solution that they own. You own this. Is to criminalize you. If you agree with this, then you agree with the conservative nightmare in America.